Well, over the years, we've had a chance to interview Blake Moen on a variety of topics. Now we're getting back to the coach Moen end of things. Blake has recently been named the new girls basketball coach at Decorah High School. And Blake, what made this the right time to jump back into the coaching end of things with 2 feet?
Yeah, absolutely, Darren. And again, as always, appreciate you having me on. I think really, Darren, for me, it was just a matter of, it always comes down to family for me. I have two little boys that have kept me plenty busy over the past 3 years, and raising them and getting them to where they are now, as all parents know, is definitely a lot of fun, a lot of challenges come in place. But for me, Darren, I think the timing of it worked out great, just because my kids are getting older. They're taking along with me to a lot of my full-time job duties on Saturday mornings for flag football and everything else. And that was the reason why I stepped away a few years ago to focus on them. Now they're getting a little older. I'm looking forward to jumping back into coaching and having an awesome opportunity to be the women's basketball coach at Decorah.
When you look at your basketball career, I know you've coached a little bit at Decorah, also coached at Southwind. How have you grown as specifically a basketball coach in that time, and how do you kind of pick up where you left off?
Yeah, I would answer that kind of in two different ways, Darren. On the basketball end and on kind of like the leadership culture end. I always believe that as a coach, you should always be looking to grow, even if you're not coaching. And for me, I haven't helped out at the high school level for 3 years, but being just in the background, still sticking up with the game and following the game, and being able to still talk to the coaching connections that I have, and sticking up with the basketball itself has been something that I've still been doing, even though as I said. But with that being said, Darren, on a leadership standpoint, I've really been able to grow in the past few years, not coaching, in my current role from a leadership standpoint, from a organization standpoint. And I also mentioned my two boys. Being a parent, you grow a lot more, I think, being a parent than anything else. And so just having kids you grow up a lot with having kids, as young parents know, and I'm always constantly learning and growing in that regard as well. But I think a lot of things in my life have happened over the few years that have set me back up to get back into coaching, and also be able to help young people again.
What makes a good coach?
I think you got to have resilience for the right reasons, Darren. I think you get into coaching because you want to be around young people. You want to challenge young people. And as I said, resilience, you want to be resilient, not only try to teach that in your athletes and student athletes, but also your players, or also in yourself. Sorry. I think that you're only doing a disservice to your athletes and players if you aren't constantly trying to learn and trying to get better and trying to improve, whether it's an X's and O's standpoint, or whether it's a leadership standpoint, or whatever it may be. So I think a good coach is someone who's always going to put the kids number one, going to be resilient for them as well, and also be able to just continue the growth process and try to instill that in your athletes as well.
How have you done what you just touched on over your coaching career? How have you grown in the ways you just touched on?
Yeah, for sure, Darren. No, it's kind of funny. I think back, my first coaching gig, I'll call it, was when I was 14 years old. I was a Little League baseball coach under Andy Nimrod for Summer Park Rec. And I think back then I just fell in love with working with kids and teaching them sports. And not only that, but utilizing that sport as a way for them to learn certain life lessons about responsibility and teamwork and so on. Then my first, what I would say, my first coaching gig while I was in college was, I was a ninth grade basketball coach for John Carlson at the time. And man, I just fell in love with it more and more. And not just working with kids and whatnot, but more so the sport of basketball. I just absolutely fell in love with and coaching it. As an athlete myself, Darren, I was probably a better baseball player than anything else, but man, coaching basketball, I've just fallen in love with not only the X's and O's, but the fundamentals, the coaching connections you make, and also the connections you make with young people. And as I transitioned to my previous head coaching role at Southwind, I was there for 4 years where I learned a lot, not only about coaching styles and everything else, but I think one thing that when I was out of college, it was kind of this is the way we're going to do it, and this is the best way, and blah blah blah. You're here to tackle the world. As I've gotten older and become a parent and been able to reflect through coaching years, I mean, I think you take a step back, you become very patient. I think you have a different mindset on those things there. And as I talked about earlier, you're always constantly growing. And so I think through the years, as my time at Southwind and my time Decorah High School before that, and now entering into Decorah, I've been able to progress.
And you mentioned you coached ninth grade basketball under Coach Carlson a few years ago. Having him as kind of a side-by-side ally when it comes to overall hoops in Decorah, how much did that appeal to you? Granted, they're different sports, boys and girls, but you're basically playing on the same night and you're working together to schedule practices, etc., youth activities like that. How much did that possibility of working with JC again attract you to this job?
JC's the man. I love JC. Will always be a real good friend of mine, and he's was a huge reason, a huge asset for that, Darren. You mentioned my ninth grade role with him. I think that was my first experience with, yes, as a coach, you got to be focused on your team, but you're sharing gym space, you're sharing the weight room, you're sharing whatever, everything else, the school, meeting rooms, everything. And so, John, I think I learned so many things from him over the years, Darren. But one of the things I learned back then was just that is such importance of building rapport with your other coaches, whether it's the boys program, the girls program, the wrestling program, and other sports. Because at the end of the day, what I love about Decorah High School is that our culture there and our head coaching philosophy there is we're there to build young people, and winning state titles and everything is always on the docket at the varsity level. It's always an exciting thing, but I think without a doubt, our number one goal is to build successful men and women to graduate from our school and be the best adults they can be. And John taught me a lot about that in those early years, and it only progressed as I went to Southwind. But being able to build that rapport and that trust and that responsibility with the other coaches is really, really important, especially at a size school like Decorah.
And you've been fortunate enough to be around a lot of great coaches. I mean, your grandfather, Ken Fenanger, your mom was in teaching. Many great coaches you've been around either as a colleague or as a student athlete. Is a case of kind of taking a little bit of everything that you've learned from all those folks and developing your own personality?
I think yeah, at the end of the day, Darren, you are who you are. And I think that's the most important thing for coaches, and especially young coaches, to know is that you at the end of the day, you are who you are. But back to that growth, I've pulled things from a lot of mentors that I've had over the years, Darren. You mentioned my grandpa. He for sure was number one, but I look at some of the other coaches that are right now at the high school. Mike Tunyon was a great coach for me through the years when I was in high school, and I've picked up things from him. Coach Owenzak and Coach Post were huge idols of mine when I was in school and played for them. Picked up things from them. When I was at Luther, I was so fortunate to be able to be a student coach under Aaron Hafner and Brian Nickel, who are both very good friends of mine. And I learned a lot from them too. And so I think those are just some examples, Darren, of you're constantly learning, but those are some of the people that I've had over my time that you take little bits and pieces from people, and then you kind of make it into your own self. But I think that's the biggest thing, Darren, that I believe is that at the end of the day, you have to be yourself to your athletes and to yourself, but also constantly be working with other coaches to grow and see what you can improve on.
How important is getting the job at this specific time, knowing the fact that you can get the off-season activities rolling in a certain direction, and the student athletes in this program don't have that uncertainty of who is going to be leading them into the fall and ultimately the winter?
Oh, I think it's huge, Darren. I think it's huge. And one of the things under our plans is to meet with our current girls that participated this past year in basketball and have a meeting with them to kind of kick off our summer and treat that meeting as a kickoff to introduce each other, but also get gears rolling. But I think it's important, Darren, because as you know, I'm going to be a huge proponent for four sports and everything else. I also think it should be a big proponent that we have something in place for the summer workouts, whether it's strength and conditioning, gym time, whatever it may be. And I think it's really, really important for our girls to know, that I'll be the head and we'll be having something this summer, and it's good for us to meet and be on the same page. One of the luxuries I have as well is that in my full-time job with Park and Rec, there are a number of our current girls that were on the basketball team this year that are employees of mine. So, which is great. You go through the roster and list and be like, oh yeah, they work for us. They're a softball coach for us. They work here and there. So that's fun for me, Darren, to have a relationship with some of them already. And I'm looking forward to meeting the other ones and getting to know them and to kick off summer.
Final question. What do you want the qualities of a Blake Moen coached basketball team to be?
I think for me, Darren, at the end of the day, I mentioned how my number one goal is that all of our student athletes are working towards a best version of themselves to graduate high school and to be the best adult they can be. During the basketball season in particular, I think enthusiasm, energy, and passion is going to be my number one thing. In my experiences coaching basketball, I think if you bring those three things to practice, to a game, to a workout, whatever it may be, you can flip a switch so easily where we can get better as a team, we can get better as a group, whether it be basketball specific or not. And so I think that's going to be a big push for me, is that we're going to be focused, we're going to be enthused, we're going to be excited to be there and get better, but we're also going to bring a lot of passion and energy that hopefully we'll be able to be pretty much constant throughout the gym. And I'm really, really looking forward to meeting the rest of the girls and getting started.
Blake, appreciate the time as always. I'm not trying to get sappy here. There's a few people that I know that I'm a bigger fan of being around young people and coaching and mentoring them, whether it's in your professional job with Parks and Recreation Department and now getting back into the high school coaching end of things. There's few people I'm a bigger fan of than Blake Moen. Happy to have you back at the head coaching end of things, and I know you'll do great things for the young people in Decorah. Thanks for the time, and appreciate it, and good luck as you start another venture.
Likewise, Darren. No, I appreciate you having me on as always. Huge proponent for Northeast Iowa sports, and everyone else. I really appreciate you having me on, and as I said, I'm really excited for this opportunity, and I can't wait to get started.
Blake Moen, the new girls basketball coach at Decorah.